Allen Ginsberg's Howl, first published in 1956, is one of the most influential and controversial American poems of the 20th century. It launched the Beat Generation as a literary and cultural movement and challenged social, political, and literary norms. The poem is both a lament for a lost generation and a rebellious cry against conformity, censorship, and the spiritual emptiness of post-war America. Divided into three main sections and a footnote, Howl is characterized by its long lines, biblical cadences, free-form style, and unflinching language. It addresses mental illness, sexuality, drug use, spirituality, war, capitalism, and artistic expression with unprecedented openness. Ginsberg dedicates the poem to Carl Solomon, whom he met in a psychiatric hospital, and whose struggles become emblematic of the broader social critique in the poem. Structure overview. Howl is divided into three parts and a footnote. Part 1 describes the best minds of Ginsberg's generation, who were destroyed by madness and alienation. This section is a catalog of their suffering, visionary quests, and experiences with drugs, art, and sexuality. Part 2 identifies the oppressive forces, symbolized by Moloch, that crushed these minds. Moloch is the personification of capitalist, industrial, militaristic, and dehumanizing society. Part 3 focuses on Carl Solomon, offering a compassionate, direct address, expressing solidarity and shared suffering. Footnote to Howl: a spiritual affirmation that everything is holy, transforming the earlier chaos into a final vision of sacred interconnectedness. Part 1 a lament for the lost generation. The poem opens with the iconic line, "I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked." Ginsberg launches into a sprawling, breathless litany of individuals who have suffered under the weight of modern society. These best minds are artists, writers, wanderers, and seekers who engage in wild, ecstatic pursuits of drugs, sex, religion, and truth. Many are broken by these quests, descending into madness, addiction, incarceration, or death. Ginsberg presents this generation as visionary martyrs who resist conformity and materialism, but are punished for their nonconformity. The tone is reverent, mournful, and intense, with long, chant-like lines echoing the rhythms of Walt Whitman. He explores taboo subjects like homosexuality, mental illness, and drug use with a rawness and honesty that shocked 1950s America, leading to an obscenity trial that ultimately affirmed the poem's literary value. Part 2 Moloch, the monster of modern civilization. In Part 2, Ginsberg identifies the villain, Moloch, a figure drawn from the Bible, a Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice, repurposed to symbolize the machinery of dehumanization, capitalism, war, conformity, and technology. Moloch, whose mind is pure machinery. Moloch, whose blood is running money. Moloch, whose fingers are 10 armies. This section is a furious denunciation of everything that crushes the human spirit. Moloch becomes a metaphor for the institutions, government, military, media, economic systems that rob individuals of creativity, compassion, and freedom. It is the reason behind the destruction witnessed in Part 1. Ginsberg uses repetitive, incantatory phrasing, Moloch, 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 to mimic a ritualistic exorcism, as if trying to drive this demon out of society. Part 3 Solidarity with Carl Solomon. The final section is a direct, personal address to Carl Solomon, whom Ginsberg met at the Columbia Presbyterian Psychiatric Institute. Solomon becomes both a real person and a symbol of all those broken by Moloch. Each line begins with, "I'm with you in Rockland," referring to the mental hospital where Solomon was confined. "I'm with you in Rockland, where you bang on the catatonic piano. The soul is innocent and immortal. It should never die ungodly in an armed madhouse." Here, Ginsberg affirms solidarity with Solomon and, by extension, with all who suffer under systemic oppression and psychological torment. The repetition becomes a mantra of compassion and connection, a refusal to abandon the afflicted. Part 3 softens the fury of Part 2. It's more personal, intimate, and emotionally raw, replacing rage with empathy. Footnote to Howl. Everything is holy. Ginsberg closes with a lyrical, euphoric affirmation of spiritual wholeness. Holy. 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 Everything is holy. Everybody's holy. Everywhere is holy. This footnote reclaims the degraded and rejected as sacred. Ginsberg declares that the very things condemned by society, madness, the body, the street, the individual, are filled with divine essence. It is a visionary conclusion, reminiscent of Whitman's transcendental embrace of the world. After the despair and anger of the earlier sections, this ending provides a sense of redemption and spiritual renewal. Themes. 1. Alienation and madness. Ginsberg's generation feels disconnected from mainstream values. The best minds seek truth through ecstatic experiences but are driven to madness by their inability to conform. The poem frames mental illness not as pathology, but as a reaction to a sick society. 2. Rebellion and nonconformity. Howl celebrates those who resist conventional expectations. The poem is a hymn to outsiders, queer individuals, addicts, mystics, and radicals. Ginsberg sees them not as delinquents but as prophets. 3. Critique of capitalism and institutional power. Moloch embodies the dehumanizing forces of the modern world: war, capitalism, bureaucracy, and industrialization. Ginsberg critiques a culture that sacrifices human values for material gain. 4. Friendship and compassion. Ginsberg's address to Carl Solomon reflects deep empathy. This part of the poem suggests that shared suffering and human connection are essential in resisting alienation. 5. Spirituality and redemption. Despite the darkness, Howl ends in affirmation. The final footnote reclaims holiness in the mundane and the marginal. Ginsberg embraces a pantheistic spirituality. Everything, even suffering, is part of the sacred whole. Style and literary devices. 1. Long lines and free verse. Ginsberg modeled his long, flowing lines on Walt Whitman, creating a breathless, chanting rhythm. The poem defies traditional structure, emphasizing organic, spontaneous expression. 2. Anaphora and repetition. Part 1. Repeated, who opens each line. Part 2. Moloch is repeated like a drumbeat. Part 3. Every line begins with, I'm with you in Rockland. This use of repetition creates a ritualistic, prophetic tone, reinforcing key ideas and building emotional intensity. 3. Imagery and surrealism. Ginsberg uses vivid, surreal images to depict both ecstatic highs and despairing lows. His metaphors are wild, often combining spirituality, urban decay, and visionary experiences. 4. Illusions. Ginsberg references literature, religion, politics, music, and science, from Walt Whitman to jazz, from Moloch to modern psychiatry. These illusions created dense cultural tapestry. Historical and cultural context. Written in the conservative 1950s, Howl was a direct challenge to American norms. Its frank discussion of homosexuality, drugs, and mental illness led to an obscenity trial in 1957. The court ruled in favor of the poem, a landmark victory for freedom of expression. Howl became a manifesto for the Beat Generation, a literary movement that included Jack Kerouac, William S. Burroughs, and others. The Beats rejected materialism, embraced Eastern philosophy, and promoted personal liberation. Conclusion. Allen Ginsberg's Howl is a radical, passionate, and groundbreaking poem that redefined American literature. Through its sprawling lines and unfiltered voice, It captures the agony, ecstasy, and rebellion of a generation. Ginsberg fuses personal grief, political rage, and spiritual yearning into a powerful cry, one that mourns the lost, indicts the system, and ultimately affirms the sacredness of human life. More than a poem, Howl is a social document, a visionary sermon, and an enduring work of art that continues to resonate in a world still wrestling with the same demons.